Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a flashlight to take a look at. This is a newer release from Acebeam and the model is the UC3A. This light is somewhat unique in that it's a flat style design that you can actually remove the battery from it. It's also going to have pretty decent output out of the main light and have an RGB light on the side here. So stick around if you want to learn about it. I'll do a real quick unboxing. I'll go over all the features and specifications, go over the user interface, try to give you guys some beam shots, and then give some thoughts on it. Alright, I'll quickly show you the package here. Looks like we're going to have a 900 lumen max output. This is going to come with a 10-year warranty. It's going to have two LEDs up here on the top. We're going to have the side RGB light. And then there's dual switches. The one switch will go to the main lights, this one will go to the RGB. Not a lot of other information on the box. There are some QR codes there. Let's get stuff pulled out. See what all we get with this light. So we're going to have a manual here and a charging cable. This is type A to type C. It looks like some O-rings and then a keychain here. I will quickly show you this manual just in case there's anything that I leave out in this video, or in case you buy this light and lose your manual. You can always come back to this video for reference. And here is the UC3A. I'll give you guys some close-ups before we start going over all the details. So my UC3A is in green. They also make this in orange and black. Like I said, it is a flat style light. It is very small. I mean, about the size of your thumb basically. So they are using Lumens SST36F LEDs in this. I'm not sure about the side light. I know that these ones up here are definitely over 6500 Kelvin. I think these ones here might be in the 4,000 to 5,000 range, so a little bit warmer. This is going to have a pocket clip here, one direction, so your LEDs are going to be facing up. You could put this on a brim of a hat and use it as a headlamp as well. This does come with a battery, and to access that, you unscrew this. There's probably going to be a little film on here that we need to remove. Let's take a look at the battery itself. So there's your charging port right there. 400 milliamp hour. It's a 10440 battery. You can also use just a regular AAA battery with this light, but I have to assume that the outputs are probably going to be less because I don't think you can get 900 lumens with a regular AAA battery. As far as dimensions go on this light, you're looking at 2.8 inches in length, 1.2 in width, and total thickness including that clip is 0.8 inches. The light by itself is 0.6 inches. And there it is on top of a dollar bill for a size reference. You see it is very small. Weight on this guy with the battery inside of it is 2.2 ounces, so very, very lightweight. This does have an IP68 waterproof rating, and it is drop tested at 1.5 meters. Alright, let's go over the user interface. It's a fairly simple light to figure out. The top button here goes to your main LEDs. You press it once to turn them on, you press it once to turn it off. Once you turn it on, you press and hold to cycle through. It always comes on in medium, so there is not a mode memory. And when you turn it on this way, you basically have three outputs. You have a low, medium, and high. So if we're on medium, press and hold, that'll take you to high. Press and hold will take you to low. And you just kind of cycle through there, low, medium, high, low, medium, high. There is also an ultra low output, and you get to that by having the light off. And then you press and hold for like a half second, and that is 4 lumens right there. And then again, you can go to the low, I believe that's 80 lumens. Medium is 210 lumens. And then the high is 900 lumens. At any point, you can actually double click and go directly up to that highest output. So yeah, even if you were in that ultra low 4 lumens and then you double click, it takes you right up to the 900. This light also has a strobe up here with these main LEDs. So if you're sensitive to flashing lights, you can look away for the next few seconds. But you can get to that by being off or on. It doesn't matter. Just triple click. I'll show you that pattern there. That's it for the main LED. And then we have the side light, which also has an RGB. When you hit it to turn it on, it comes on in the higher output here, and then you press and hold for a lower output. But just kind of like up here, it always is going to come on in that. There is no mode memory. Even if you shut it off in one of the colors, it'll still always come on in the higher white here. And to get to those colors, you just double click. So we're just going to have a steady red there. If you double click again, it'll take you into a flashing red. Double click again, takes you into a green. Another double click will be flashing green. And we're going to have a blue up next, so double click. Flashing blue. And then you kind of get like an alternating red and blue up next. It's kind of like they call it police lights or whatever, but so it's flashing between red and blue. And there is one more, I believe, after this one. And this is like a rainbow color. And I think it should go back to the white after this. Yes, it did. And that's it with the side light. Just so you know, you cannot have both lights on at the same time. If I go to do the main LEDs, it'll switch and shut those off, and vice versa. I did want to show you guys that this also has a magnet in the tail here, and that easily supports itself in any position. And because this is flat here on the bottom, that also tail stands very easily. If you want to pocket carry this light, here's what that's going to look like. You do have just a little bit sticking up out of your pocket, but it sure does not take up much room in the pocket. And like I mentioned earlier, you can't put this on the bill of a hat, and definitely use this as a makeshift headlamp. And they had that included keychain there, so you can attach it to your keys. And as you can see, it's about the same size of, a key fob for a car. And again, it only weighs a couple ounces, so you could definitely carry it this way. So before I do the nighttime beam shots, I will get that 10440 battery completely charged. But I want to make sure that just a standard AAA battery does indeed work in this in a pinch. But again, I have to assume either you can't get to high or it's not as bright. I'm not sure which one it is, but let's make sure it works. So that works. So we still have a low, medium, high, but yeah, that's definitely not 900 lumens. Let's see if the ultra low works. Yeah, everything seems like it works perfectly fine. Probably just not as bright. And one other thing I forgot to mention, this light does have a lockout feature, so it doesn't accidentally turn on. You just get to that by pressing and holding, I think for maybe 3 to 5 seconds or so, and then it started flashing right there. So now we're in lockout, and it kind of does this thing when you try to turn it on. That's kind of like your warning, but yeah, your actual main light will not come on then. And to get out of it, it's that same hold for 3 to 5 seconds. It'll flash, kind of let you know now you're back on again. All right, let's take a look at this Acebeam here in the dark. I'm going to do the moonlight setting here first. In this room, it's about 15 feet or so over to that wall, and I can definitely see it pretty clearly even on this lowest setting. All right, up next will be like the main cycle, so it's going to come on in that medium setting first. And as you can see, that is a lot of light out of this small flashlight. But let's bump up to the highest amount here next. This will be the 900 lumens. So you really get a hot spot over there on that wall. And then let's take it down to the low next. And again, that there is plenty enough light for most tasks. I will show you the strobe pattern just so you can see what it looks like in the dark. So if you're sensitive to flashing lights, you can look away for a few seconds. Now let's go through the side lights. The camera won't pick that up real well, but even that right there is enough. If you set that down on a table, that will easily illuminate an entire room. That's the lower amount. All right, let's go through the colors here. That is our red. We'll get a flash next. I think we got green up next. Flashing green. Then we got blue. I know on the camera that maybe looks a little bit white, but it's definitely a blue color here in the flash. We have the alternating red and blue. And then that rainbow color. Yeah, I wish the camera picked that up better. That's really cool. I set that down on the table over there with the side light on, just so you can see how well that does illuminate a room. Alright, I'm outside. I do want to show you guys what the Acebeam looks like on the highest setting out here. There's a row of trees. It's about 60, 70 feet away. There's a tree that's kind of way back here. That's about 100 yards away, and I can make it out. I cannot see up into the top of it or anything, but this definitely throws over 100 yards. So, very good output out of a light this small. And there, I have it attached on the side of the car. You can see how helpful that would be if you needed to change a tire in the dark, or attach it to the underside of your hood or something like that if you're working on your engine bay. So I've had this little Acebeam for a couple weeks now, been carrying it daily, been using it daily, and overall I really like this light. I love the design of it. You know, it's flat, compact, lightweight. I like how it has the front LEDs up here plus this little side light. I like that the battery is removable, which you don't find on many flat style lights. Plus you can use any AAA battery that you want. I like that it has this magnetic tail on it, and it's very, very strong. A lot of times when there's a magnet just on the one side, lights like this tend to like spin or rotate, and this one definitely stays put. Another pro for me is, even though this light is so tiny, the performance on it is actually really good. 900 lumens out of a light this size. Now granted, that does only last for maybe 15-20 seconds or so, but then it steps down to 400 lumens, which is still a ton of output, and that'll go for like 14 plus more minutes before it steps down again. Or you can just start off in that 210 lumen kind of like medium mode there, and that'll last for over a half hour straight. And again, 200 lumens is really all the light you need for most tasks. I also like that it's small and lightweight enough that you can put this on a keychain if you want to carry it that way, and you could also use this as a headlamp. There are a few things that I don't necessarily care for. The first thing is these screws here are kind of exposed, and every time that I go to slide this in and out of my pocket, it kind of catches on my pocket a little bit. I know for sure that that's going to wear a spot in my pocket if I continue to wear that, so I wish that those screws were kind of like sunk down in or recessed a little bit more. Another thing I don't really like is that there's not a mode memory. It's not a huge deal on the main lights, which is mostly what I've been using, because you've really only got a low, medium, high up through here. But it is kind of annoying on these side lights, because like let's say you want one of the flashing colors. Let's just say it's blue, and then you have to double click and then double click and then double click and double click, and finally you'll get to the main blue and then the flashing blue. The problem is if you screw up that double click, it starts you back over again. So if I'm on, and this happens to me a few different times, so I'll get here and like maybe I'm here, and then if you single click, it takes you off and then you come back on here. So a little bit annoying. And the last thing I'll mention here is that these buttons are just a little bit on the squishy side. You can kind of almost like half press them and not turn anything on or off. I also I do wish those were just a little bit firmer. And then the other thing is I kind of wish that they had a little bit of texturing on them. They're almost sunk down just a little bit here. And I think a little bit of texturing up there would like let your thumb know exactly where to go to on them. But again, those are kind of just wishes. There's nothing actually wrong with this light. And again, I really do like it. So have you guys ever carried like these micro little lights for part of your EDC, or would you ever carry one like this? Let me know down in the comments. Personally, yes, I absolutely would carry this as my primary everyday carry light. In fact, I've carried this little light right here, which is about the same size honestly, every day for probably the last 8 years or so. And this one is almost 4 times brighter than that one. Plus it has the side lights, plus it has the ability to use a regular AAA battery, which that one cannot. So these lights are available on Amazon. At the time of me making this video, they're coming in right around $28. And again, they have the orange, they have black, or this greenish color here. And keep in mind that that price does include that rechargeable 10440 battery as well. So I think it's an excellent price on it. And I will leave that Amazon link down in the video description in case you guys want to find out more information on this light. Looks like there's about 80 reviews, so if you want to read any of them or if you want to pick one up. But alright guys, if you found the video helpful or informative in any way, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And that's going to be it on this one. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.